We don't talk enough about what happens after rejection. We talk about heartbreak, we talk about resilience, we even talk about getting over it. But we don't talk about the part that often hurts the most, the silence that follows. That silence is louder than words. It's where self-doubt festers, where someone replays every moment wondering what they did wrong, where they start believing they are not enough. And that silence, it is killing them. Rejection is something we all experience. It's that gut-wrenching feeling when we put ourselves out there, whether it's in love, friendship, career, or even just an idea, and we're met with a no. It stings, it makes us question our worth, our choices, and sometimes even our identity. But as painful as rejection is, there's something far worse: silence. Silence after rejection isn't just a lack of words, it's a void that fills up with insecurity, doubt, and self-blame. It's human nature to seek closure. We want to understand why things didn't work out, why we weren't chosen, why we weren't enough in that moment. But when there's no response, no explanation, no acknowledgement, our minds don't rest. Instead, they start filling in the gaps. And more often than not, they fill them with the worst possible assumption. Think about it. If a job interview doesn't go well and the company at least sends an email saying, "Thank you, but we've chosen someone else," it stings, but you move on, you have your answer. But if they never respond, you start wondering, was it something I said? Was I not impressive enough? Did they laugh at my resume after I left? And the uncertainty gnaws at you. Now amplify that feeling when it comes to relationship. You open your heart to someone, maybe a friend, maybe a romantic interest, and instead of a direct response, they simply disappear, they ghost you. And in that silence, your mind runs wild. Did I say something wrong? Was I not attractive enough? Did I annoy them? Did they ever even care? The brain craves an answer, and in the absence of one, it often chooses self-doubt. Silence after rejection is not kindness. Some people think they're letting someone down easy by simply avoiding the conversation, by disappearing instead of saying the hard thing. But avoidance isn't mercy, it's cruelty in disguise. Because while you move on with your life, the person on the other end is left in a cycle of overthinking and pain. Rejection is painful, but it's also part of life. We can handle it. People are stronger than they think. What's unbearable is the feeling of being discarded without acknowledgement, of being treated like we never even mattered enough for a response. So the next time you have to turn someone down, whether it's professionally, personally, or even casually, remember this: your silence isn't protecting them, it's hurting them. A simple, honest, and kind response can give them the closure they need. It allows them to heal, to move forward, to let go. Rejection is painful, but silence destroys. Humans are wired for understanding. We are storytellers by nature, constantly piecing together our experiences to make sense of the world. When something happens, especially something painful, our brains search for meaning, for logic, for a way to close the chapter and move forward. That's why when we face rejection, what we need more than anything is closure. Closure is the gift of clarity. It's an answer, even if it's not the one we wanted. It's the reassurance that what happened had a reason, that it wasn't all in our heads, that we aren't simply being discarded or forgotten. But when rejection is met with silence, it leaves a person stranded in uncertainty, searching for answers in a space where none exist. Imagine this: you apply for a job that you're excited about. You spend hours fine-tuning your resume, rehearsing your responses, and showing up as the best version of yourself. The interview goes well, or at least you think it does. Days pass, then weeks, and you hear nothing. No rejection email, no follow-up call, just radio silence. At first, you tell yourself maybe they're still deciding. Then doubt creeps in. Did they find someone else? Did I say something wrong? Was I not even worth a response? The not knowing becomes worse than the rejection itself. Now, apply that same scenario to a relationship. You meet someone, build a connection, and then one day they disappear. No conversation, no explanation, just gone. The absence of a clear ending keeps your mind tangled in what ifs. Did I misread everything? Did I push them away? Did I ever even matter to them? That emptiness is exhausting and it lingers far longer than a direct but painful truth ever would. People don't expect every outcome in life to go their way, but they do expect respect. And closure is just that, respect. It's telling someone, hey, this isn't working for me, or I appreciate you, but I don't feel the same way. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's also human. It gives the other person a clear path forward instead of leaving them lost in the maze of self-doubt. Some believe that avoiding a difficult conversation is an act of kindness, that silence spares feelings. But the truth, silence isn't gentle, it's cruel. It leaves a person hanging in a state of emotional limbo where they're forced to create their own painful explanations. And most of the time, the stories we tell ourselves in the absence of real answers are far worse than the truth ever would have been. If you've ever been on the receiving end of silence, you know the weight of it. It doesn't just hurt, it haunts. And if you wouldn't want to carry that pain, why would you place it on someone else? So the next time you have to walk away, choose honesty over avoidance. Choose clarity over confusion, because people can handle rejection, but they can't heal from emptiness. Rejection is never easy for the person being rejected, and sometimes even for the one delivering it. It's an uncomfortable moment, one that many people try to avoid altogether, but rejection in itself isn't what destroys people. It's how we reject them that leaves a lasting impact. A rejection given with cruelty, indifference, or silence can leave deep scars, while a rejection given with compassion can allow a person to walk away with their dignity intact. We often underestimate the power of kindness in moments of discomfort. The truth is, rejecting someone is not just about you moving on, it's also about how you allow them to move on. When we dismiss people coldly, mock their vulnerability, or ignore them completely, we send a message that says, you were never important enough to deserve a proper response. And that message can stick with a person far longer than we realize. Think about how much courage it takes to be vulnerable, whether it's someone confessing their feelings, asking for an opportunity, or trying to repair a friendship. They are taking a risk. They are putting themselves in a position where they might be hurt. And when we reject them, we have a choice. We can make that pain sharper by treating them with indifference, or we can acknowledge their courage and respond with kindness. Compassion in rejection doesn't mean giving false hope. It doesn't mean sugarcoating the truth or pretending to feel something we don't. It simply means recognizing the other person's humanity and handling the moment with care. It can sound like, I appreciate you sharing that with me, and I want to be honest. I don't feel the same way, but I respect you for being open, and I hope we can both move forward with clarity. You're a great person, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you, but I don't see this working out for me. I just want to be upfront so you're not left wondering. I wanted to follow up and let you know that we've decided to go in a different direction. Thank you for your time and effort. It really means a lot. These small moments of consideration can make all the difference. A kind rejection allows the other person to close the chapter with dignity instead of feeling discarded. It helps them heal instead of questioning their worth. On the other hand, when rejection is handled with coldness or silence, it can turn into something much more damaging. It can make people afraid to be vulnerable again. It can make them hesitant to put themselves out there in the future. And worst of all, it can reinforce the belief that they don't matter. And isn't that the exact opposite of what we want? We don't have to love everyone who loves us. We don't have to accept every opportunity that comes our way. But what we do have to do is remember that the person on the other end of our rejection is just like us, human, feeling, hoping, and trying. So when the moment comes when you have to say no, when you have to walk away, choose to do it with grace, because people may forget exactly what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. The human brain is a master storyteller. When we don't have all the facts, our minds instinctively work to fill in the blanks. We piece together details, make assumptions, and build a narrative, even when that narrative is based on nothing more than guesswork. This is why when rejection is followed by silence, it becomes so much more painful than it needs to be. Silence isn't just nothing. It's an invitation for insecurity to take over. When someone is left without a response, their mind doesn't simply accept the lack of information and move on. Instead, it starts searching for answers, often in the most self-critical ways possible. Let's say someone confesses their feelings to a person they care about, and instead of receiving a direct response, they are met with silence. What happens next? Their brain goes into overdrive, analyzing every past conversation, every text message, every small detail, trying to pinpoint what went wrong. They start questioning themselves. Did I come on too strong? Was I never good enough for them? Did they laugh at my feelings? Maybe I'm just not attractive / smart / interesting enough. And the worst part, the mind rarely fills in the gaps with kind, logical explanations. It doesn't say maybe they're just bad at communicating, or maybe they didn't know how to respond. Instead, it assumes the worst. I wasn't even worth a response. This phenomenon isn't just limited to personal relationships. It happens in professional settings too. Think about job seekers who pour their energy into an application, go through multiple rounds of interviews, and then nothing. No rejection email, no feedback, just silence. Instead of assuming maybe they were too busy to respond, the mind goes straight to self-doubt. I must have been a complete failure. They probably thought I was a joke. The truth is, the lack of closure forces people to create their own explanations, and those explanations tend to be harsher than reality. A simple, clear rejection, while still painful, gives the brain something solid to work with. It allows a person to say, okay, this wasn't meant for me, rather than spiraling into endless self-criticism. Psychologically, this happens because uncertainty triggers anxiety. The brain craves resolution. It wants to close open loops. When there is a lack of information, the mind keeps revisiting the situation, replaying it over and over, trying to find meaning. And the longer the silence lasts, the deeper the emotional wound becomes. So what's the solution? It's simple. Communicate. If you need to reject someone, whether in a personal or professional setting, don't leave them in a void of uncertainty. Acknowledge their effort, their courage, their humanity. Say something rather than nothing, because a kind rejection gives the mind an ending. Silence, on the other hand, forces it to write a painful story that was never necessary in the first place. We don't control how people feel after rejection, but we do control how we treat them in the process. A few words of honesty can be the difference between someone moving on with understanding or being trapped in a cycle of self-doubt. So the next time you hesitate to respond, remember, when you leave a gap, the brain will fill it in, usually with the most painful version possible. Choose kindness instead.